Hi, I'm Philomena from Evolution Power Yoga and Evolution Go, and I'll be your guide for the next 20 minutes on a workshop associated with anatomy of the breath. The only thing you're going to need is a mat, so let's get started. The anatomy of breath that we're working on today is diaphragmatic breathing. We're going to get more into the breath exercises in a bit, but to start, it's important to get some flexibility, some stretch in this whole chest cavity area. So that's how we're going to begin. This is also called mobility, so chest mobility, the ability of the chest to expand and compress during the inhalation and the exhalation. So we're going to start with the 6 movements of the spine in order to create that stretch in your chest. So begin by bringing your hands to heart center, interlace your fingers. You're going to press your arms forward and take the middle of your back towards the space behind you. Really tuck that tailbone underneath you and also tuck your chin towards your chest. Take a couple breaths here. And as you do, imagine the space that you're creating, the stretch between the bones from your neck the whole way down to your tailbone. Keep breathing slowly in and out. This is called spinal flexion. We're going to move in the opposite direction now into spinal extension. This is a little bit more subtle, but you're going to press your breastbone, your chest towards the front space, and then take your shoulder blades back, head back. Some of you can create a bigger arch in your spine than I am, some less. So don't force it. This is your first stretch, a couple breaths here. Now imagining the stretch you're creating between the soft tissue of your vertebrae on the front side of your body, all those backbones that make up your back. Now let's incorporate the breath with this movement. So exhale, spinal flexion. Inhale, spinal extension. Keep going. 2 more times. Exhale, spinal flexion. Inhale. All the while creating space in that chest cavity, also known as your thoracic cavity. The next time you're in that spinal extension, release your arms. We'll take one slow breath cycle just to feel the rib mobility, the chest mobility that you already created in your chest. The next 2 ways to move your spine is rotation to the right and rotation to the left. So separate your feet quite a bit and bend your knees. You're going to just do a gentle twist in one direction, gentle twist in the opposite direction. Each time you take that twist, imagine each of those vertebrae just sliding past each other to give you more and more range of motion in these twists. Now add a little bit more momentum. You can even let your arms fly from side to side. You can lift one leg up, the other. Anytime you're getting too much information, just back off to an earlier stage, getting some heat in your spine, asking for more stretch all across your chest. That's all this is about. Even take your gaze towards the space behind you more. And then come back to stillness and let your arms rest. Move your feet hip-width distance apart, bend your knees a little bit. Another breath just to feel that space you've created now from these 2 movements. The last 2 movements of the spine, lateral flexion to the right and lateral flexion to the left. Lift your arms up towards the ceiling. You can even take a little mudra, put your 2 pointer fingers together and laterally flex to one side. Stay here for a moment and let that space now be created between the bones of your back to the side. Just imagine that soft tissue that holds your bones together, stretching out. And back to center. Feel the asymmetry going on in the body. Keep pulling in your abdominal muscles. And now lateral flexion to the other side. Even let your neck get involved here. And come back to center. Let's add some breath. So inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And exhale. On this next breath cycle, go a little bit further into that lateral flexion. Exhale. Inhale. And exhale. And back to center. Again, release your arms. Feel what you feel. Feel that space that you're creating in your chest cavity, also known as your thoracic cavity. Now we'll return to that term that I mentioned at the beginning, which is diaphragmatic breathing. The diaphragm is a sheet of muscle and connective tissue that separates your chest, your thoracic cavity, from your abdominal pelvic cavity, this big space. When you breathe in, the diaphragm flattens, and as it flattens, it pushes your abdominal muscle or your abdominal organs, your stomach, your intestines, and so forth, forward so you get this full belly. You're actually not taking the air into your belly, into your abdomen. The air is going into your lungs, but because the diaphragm flattens, it pushes your guts towards the front space. So that's why your belly gets a little Buddha-like. So pull in your belly once again, cinch it in to protect your lower back, and exhale completely. When you exhale, that diaphragm actually domes up. And when it domes up, you have less space in your thoracic cavity, your lungs, and that compressed space causes the air to leave your lungs and go out of your lungs. Now, an issue a lot of people in our culture have is breathing up into the tops of the lungs. That shallow breath, when the shoulders come up and forward and you're a little nervous, someone pulled out in front of you, you're frightened or you're stressed, maybe even a work project due date. So the goal is to open up the chest cavity and breathe down into the lower parts of the lungs, down at the base of your ribs, getting air down into those nooks and crannies. That does a couple things for you. One, it tells your nervous system that you're okay. You're literally communicating with your brain saying, I'm fine. It also helps with GI issues. So it calms the digestive system and it relaxes and calms the brain. So altogether, this diaphragmatic breathing has many health benefits. So to figure out how to tap into that, you're gonna lay on the floor, keep your knees bent, put your flat feet on the floor, and rest on back. Arch your back slightly and pull your shoulder blades together and depress them down your back. Rest your shoulder blades as flat as you can on the floor. If you didn't quite get that, maybe do it another time. Arch your back. Push the back of your skull into the floor, tailbone into the floor. Draw your shoulder blades together on the back side of your body and down towards your tailbone. And attempt to get your shoulder blades as flat as possible on the mat. Put your left hand over your heart, right hand on your belly. If you're looking at the camera, look towards the ceiling, get some symmetry in your neck. Take 3 breath cycles, in other words, 3 inhales followed by an exhale. And just notice which hand goes towards the ceiling more. Is it your left hand or your right hand? If it's your left hand, the hand over your heart, the more the air is staying up in the tops of your lungs. If it's your right hand, your hand on your belly, then you're already tapping into that diaphragmatic breathing, that breathing that allows your nervous system to calm down, that type of breathing pattern that's good for your digestive system. So to tap into the diaphragm, to figure out where that's at, make sure your right hand is right at the base of your ribs and do a couple coughs. Do you feel that contraction right under your right hand? That contraction is your diaphragm. So that's where you want the air to go. You want to go right down into that diaphragm. So again, if you're looking at the video, look straight up towards the ceiling to make sure your neck is in line with the rest of your spine, and direct the air into your right hand, your hand that's at the base of your ribs, and blow up your belly. Remember, the air is not going into your belly or your abdomen. The air is in your lungs, but that diaphragm flattening is pushing your guts up towards the ceiling. All right, I'm going to be quiet now for about 3 breath cycles. So you experiment with moving that air into the lower parts of your lungs. Let's take a tiny bit of break from the diaphragmatic breathing and just let your knees drift over to the right and the left. Neutralize your lower back. Get a slight stretch there. So this is probably the easiest way to tap into your diaphragmatic breath. Standing makes it a little bit more challenging. So we're going to move into that diaphragmatic breathing in a standing posture. So move it back up to your feet. Again, feet hip width distance apart. A bit of a bend in the knees. Left hand over your heart. Right hand over your belly. Open up across your chest. Feel that broadening across your chest. And move the air down into the inferior, the lower parts of your lungs. Go ahead and let that belly just come on out. It's okay. We're going to have the Buddha belly right now. And then exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Attempt to move your chest, the top of your chest rather, as little as possible. Then relax your arms by your side. See if that diaphragmatic breathing is starting to feel a little bit more natural for you. Notice what it's doing to your state. Do you feel calmer? More relaxed? Add a little bit of movement with diaphragmatic breathing. So inhale, breathe into your diaphragm, lift your arms up. Exhale, air out. So every time you add a little bit more to this, it gets more challenging to tap into that diaphragmatic breathing. So realize that you can always go back to an easier stage like on the floor or hands over your belly and your heart. So the goal is not moving your arms up over your head. The goal is breathe down into the deep, deep parts of your lungs, the inferior regions of your lungs. And pause. Another thing that's very challenging in yoga postures are twisting poses. One of the reasons for that is because it's difficult to breathe down into the diaphragm to get that full inhale. You're going to take a simple chair pose. Move your hands to heart center and go into that twist. Twist over to one side or the other, elbow to knee. Now really tap into that diaphragmatic breathing. Notice how the belly against the thigh makes this a little bit more challenging. So an important thing to do here is tell yourself that you're okay, that you're calm, and breathe way down into the inferior regions of the lungs. Part of the reason that this posture makes you feel a little bit panicking, I know you're there, stay for another moment, and come out of your chair pose, is because you have a tendency to start breathing up here instead of down here. And because of that, you get into that stressed, shallow breathing, and all of a sudden your brain says, something's wrong, something's wrong. even though you're in a safe space. You're just changing your body position. So go back into your chair pose. Move your hands to heart center and twist the other way. As you twist the other way, create more space in this belly region by sitting down more, lifting up more. You can also open the arms. That gives more space in the chest. If this arm up here is too much fire, you can just wrap it around, but you're asking for the air to go down, pushing on that lowering of the diaphragm, causing your guts to go out. That's going to make you stay calmer in this posture. Get rid of that panic and realize this isn't that hard of a posture, but what's happening to the space in your chest creates that sense of panic. All right, and come on up out of it. We'll end our 20-minute session by sitting in a comfortable seated position. Put your hands on your knees, pull on your knees, engage your abdominal muscles, broaden across your chest. You can either close your eyes or just look at something on the floor a couple feet in front of you. I'm going to take about 12 diaphragmatic breath cycles. That's about a minute. All you're worried about is moving the air into your lungs, feeling your belly jut out, and exhaling. For these last 6 breath cycles, you could count to 4. That's another way to help you keep a rhythm. 4, 3, 2, 1 as you breathe in. And generally exhaling takes a little longer. You might be going up to 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So add the counting for the last 5 breath cycles. And inhale your arms up. Move your hands to heart center. Thank you so much for joining me for this Anatomy of Yoga workshop. Just remember, it's not about all these fancy words. It's more about how you feel and paying attention to how you feel. Because when you feel your body, when you notice what's going on in your body and how your breath impacts your body, you're doing yoga, you're being mindful, and you are in a space of healing and growing. Namaste.